So today's Beginner's Guide to Jungle Taitei briefly covers the entire anime franchise. Starting off, we have the 52-episode Jungle Taitei 1965. Surprisingly, it created a sense of phantom nostalgia for me with just the total package of it, because it feels like a show that I could have watched when I was a kid, even though I'm not nearly that old. So the premise of the story is that Leo the lion, or Kimba in the English version of it, is kidnapped. Him and his mom are captured by poachers because they're in an African jungle, and his father is the emperor of the jungle. Unfortunately, he gets killed by the poachers, and Leo is born in captivity. The only thing that they can do, because they're on a boat sailing across the ocean, is that he escapes from the cell, has to leave his mom behind. He goes back to the jungle, and he is met with the responsibility of being the new jungle emperor. It's a pretty dramatic start that might be difficult for kids, but the rest of it, I think, is pretty good because it deals with a lot of wholesome morals. I would say the one moral that reigns supreme over everything here is staying true to what you feel is right, but also keeping an open mind and listening to your elders, listening to the people who have the experience, and also listening to both sides of the story. Because when Leo returns, there was this power gap in the absence of his father. And there were two sides to it. There were the people who were loyal to his father, who are now loyal to Leo. And then there were the people who were waiting for this to happen. Not the people, but the animals who were waiting for this to happen, such as the hyenas and everything. And they wanted to take over. Kimba comes in between, and he starts listening to both sides of it. There are some people here who do things like they will steal, they're misunderstood, people don't believe them, they lie because they want the attention. That rings true with the way that a lot of people act. Even adults have issues with that, I would say. So I think these are very important morals. And what surprised me the most about his morals was that as a vegan, there was an episode where he introduced the fact that we shouldn't be fighting each other anymore. We need peace. So they started a farm, and there was this big turmoil between them, but that actually lasted throughout the entire anime series. I would say it's really wholesome in that regard, but there are a few scenes, in addition to the deaths, that are kind of scary. And there's one with the bugs, like I mentioned, and it's pretty dark, and they really of intimidating size. Some of them are massive, and they're in great quantity. I would say that overall, this became the type of anime that I think would be perfect to watch. Either you get home from work or school and you're exhausted and you want to play a game and you put it on and you're doing it side by side, or you put it on before bed. This was the first full-color anime series ever, and that is impressive because it looks so good. Keep in mind, you are looking at the Blu-ray footage of it, that you won't be able to watch it in English unless you're fluent in Japanese. What's so impressive about its visuals are that it is the closest that anime series have ever been to what Toei was doing with its movies. If you've seen my Beginner's Guide to 50s Anime, you'll know Toei revolutionized anime, and Jungle Taitei 1965 was the closest to that. To give you the closest thematic comparison would be Jungle, I think, Shonen Ken. If I've gotten the name wrong, I'll make sure to point that out. And then when you go over to Jungle Taitei, only a couple years later, it is just mind-blowing night and day difference. And I think that is something that's very substantial in the history of anime. So one last thing before I move on is the controversy about Jungle Taitei. Supposedly people are saying that The Lion King copied it. I haven't seen The Lion King since I was a kid, so I really don't care either way. I mean, even if it were true, all the times that things are copying from anime, this is the thing that people talk about. It happens constantly, and we're currently in what I believe is in the era of anime exploitation, as it's just a money machine right now, and people are taking all sorts of storyboards and stuff, and you hear about it left and right, but this is the thing people care about. And what gets me is that the people that talk about this haven't seen Jungle Taitei, and I doubt they really give a damn about Lion King either. So my thing is, if you're gonna talk about it, at least watch the anime so you can have some grounding to that opinion there, because it's a good anime for kids, keep that in mind. So moving on, we've got 1966, which has got 2 entries, and one of those is a movie which you can totally skip. It's untranslated, so you can just skip it, and it seems that from what I've seen, it just takes a lot from the original and just re-edits it, like from the first few episodes. The big thing from 1966 was the anime series that is a continuation of 1965 Jungle Taitei, where Leo is now an adult. And my problem with this is that it's another thing where you have to watch it with the English dubbing, but it is terrible. It's one of the worst dubs I've ever heard. Listen to this.
Oh!
Now, calm down, Bad. I'm Captain Bad, Captain!
Where's my grandpa?
Listen, kid, it was a game. We were just playing a game with him.
You're lying!
Since you two like games, let's play hide and seek.
That's not the first time, Leo. The hyenas live only about a mile north of that cliff in the foothill.
Do all the animals like you as much as I?
I'm not sure I want to hear this.
So it's annoyingly bad, and I started watching it raw, but I just figured, it was one of those moments where I felt like, what am I doing with my life? And I just dropped it. I dropped the entire thing. So I really don't know if it's good or not. And even if it is, I don't want to waste that first time experience watching it one of these ways, either raw or with this terrible English dub. So I skipped it, and I recommend you skip it too, unless you're in the future and there's a translated version coming out. So the next entry is the 52 episode anime from 1989, and this also has preservation problems to it too. So the only way that it's available is through fan subs, but it's covered by 2 fan sub groups. It's like a gritty, I wouldn't say gritty, but it's like a reboot of the original series. It retells the story, but it's a little bit darker, and I honestly don't know if Jungle Taitei benefits from being darker, but to each their own, I guess. It's got blood, it's got violence, it's got animals getting killed in it, and to me, I felt like that removed a lot of the magic that I felt with the original series, and that's that. But as I continued on, I jumped to, I think it's like in the 40s or something when that next subgroup picks up, and it is just half-assed, to be honest with you, like this video. But it's more half-assed than this video because you get subfiles for all the episodes, and some of those subfiles have nothing. The only text there in those subfiles are like Russian threats and anti-vaxxing propaganda and stuff like that. So it's really frustrating. Then on top of that, you don't even get to watch the ending of it. So I watched probably 30 episodes in total, and I just quit. I can't recommend that you watch that. It needs a lot of work done, and unfortunately, it's one that I can't recommend. So moving on to the next entry is the 1991 movie OVA. This one is also skippable because it's like an orchestral musical that, it's fine, but you could just as easily watch the first episode of the original anime series and get practically the same experience from that. The next movie comes from 1997. I think a lot of people probably watched this one in terms of their Jungle Taitei understanding because it looks absolutely beautiful. Just the way they do the parallaxing effects, the details of the jungle environment, the way the animals look, just everything about it is really beautiful. There is some CG usage here that, it's late 90s, so it's not going to look good, and thankfully they use that sparingly. So the 1997 movie was a big mixed bag for me because its visuals were so beautiful, but its story was really lacking for me. It's a little bit longer than it needs to be, and it really feels like they were trying to create this cinematic experience and just throw everything into it, and it's probably enjoyable for kids since there's like so much going on at once here, but there's not a single one of these plot points I really cared about. Hamig goes to the jungle and he's trying to look for this meteor and he's killing a bunch of animals, he's destroying everything, he's on a scorched earth campaign basically. And he's looking for this meteor that contains an energy source that could power the entire world, basically, so he's going to profit from that. And he doesn't care what he destroys in the process. So there's that. Then Leo is older here, and he's got a kid, and his kid gets captured and sold into a circus or whatever, and then there is this thing where this virus comes out of nowhere and starts affecting everybody and everyone's getting sick, and it's just too much going on. It's worth watching for its visuals if you just care about that sort of things, but otherwise I would just say skip it. The next movie is the 9-minute 2000s movie, and that, I believe, was a special movie that was shown in an Osamu Tezuka. It was like this thing in Japan for him, and it's fine, but it's raw, so it's not really a reason to watch it. Lastly, there's a 2009 movie-length special that primarily targets kids who don't know anything about the franchise because it is a fresh reboot. It takes all of the wild animals from Africa and brings them over into this artificial jungle on this island, and they're basically living in a massive zoo, and because of that there's cameras everywhere, the animals' health are always monitored, and they're making do and they're enjoying themselves, but they're also not happy because they can't roam as far as they can. The element of survival really isn't there for them here. I would say it stays true to the core elements of Jungle Taitei, where there's the gray morality within the animal kingdom, and then there's the human, which have this pretty stark contrast between good and evil there, where you've got the humans that are trying to help the animals, and you see that here, and then there's also the warden, and he just wants to kill any animal who gets remotely sick because it looks bad for the visitors. I know the entire franchise is basically a kids anime series, but this one I would say is the most kid-friendly and the least adult-friendly, so keep that in mind if you're going to check it out. So in terms of my recommended watch order for everything, sorry I'm not giving the scores. I'll probably put it in with graphics as I'm editing the video here. But as of everything from the Jungle Taitei franchise, as of right now, I know I have a bad track record with release or bad luck with releasing videos, and as soon as I release it, somebody releases a better translation for something. I would say the only thing out of the entire Jungle Taitei anime that is worth watching is the original Jungle Taitei series. I want to say thanks for watching, and I will see you later. My next project, as of right now, is going to be Judo Boy, and that's pretty cool. You know, I'm feeling good about that. Lots of action there. It's like Fist of the North Star meets Speed Racer, and it's fun. So, I'll see you then. Have an awesome week.